and we utilize the farmers market to start building that community living room, that community space, but we also wanted it to be what it's becoming today, which is an economic driver for our downtown. We've really done this through redevelopment. And if you look at the state statute, redevelopment calls out slum and blight, but what we think about when we talk about redevelopment is revitalization and reinvestment. And how do we encourage those efforts? So it's really a process. We have a scope and a financial means, and ultimately through the state statute, we're saying by law that we're committing to our community to stem deterioration in the area. And so this is another view of the Heritage District from the water tower. Just to give you a little overview of who Gilbert is in the Heritage District. We're 0.3 square miles. We were established as a redevelopment area in 1989, and we were also established as an entertainment district, as Jen had mentioned, in 2013. Interestingly enough, though, with our entertainment district, we also instituted a good neighbor policy, because we did have schools and churches that were located adjacent to restaurants that wanted to sell alcohol. So in order for our mayor and council to approve those, to move the alcohol licenses through the process, they had to show that they've had communications on how they'll be good neighbors. So since 1989, we've had 4 redevelopment plans. Those plans are the vision for the way in which Gilbert will revitalize and the reinvestments will make. So it has goals associated with it and tactics. We've had 9 mayors through these 4 plans. And what's great is that the vision has remained the same. So if the political winds change, if you have staff changes, these redevelopment plans, those goals and tactics have carried us forward and ensure that we're really focused on what Gilbert was trying to become in 1991. We accomplished this by buying property. So over 30 years, we acquired all of these parcels. We did it actively by essentially just, we still today send out letters to neighbors to say, if you're interested in selling your property, please consider talking with Gilbert. So we work with those property owners, and we own 56% of the non-residential land, which really given us a lot of opportunity to focus on that vision and ensure that we can put it into place. And you can see this through visual changes as simple as the water tower. This is a picture of the water tower in the early 2000s. It had a chain link fence around it. It was not very pretty. At one point, council said, let's get rid of it. The community came out and said, no, we want to keep it. They did a Save the Water Tower campaign. And through that effort, Gilbert said, okay, well, we'll match those funds that you raised and we'll do a capital improvement project. And so now we have a splash pad under the water tower, and we have furthered our enhancements to it by lighting it. Sorry. Give me a restart. Okay. Just to show you visually the changes and how rapidly this is happening. So going back to the early 2000s, it took us a considerable amount of time to buy land and to put that vision in place. But then once we were able to really start imparting some of these redevelopment tactics, it broke us really fast. So this is 2013. This is just one block area. This is what happened in 4 years. That amount of development. We had university building, parking, office, retail. We had corporate headquarters come in. And 4 years later, we have additional parking and more retail, more office, and more public space and amenities. So we're just seeing this tremendous amount of growth. Again, all related back to that vision and those golden tactics and us following this plan. So our most recent redevelopment plan was enacted in 2018. It was adopted by council. It also includes a master plan of that 56% of non-residential land we own. But we also have a set of design guidelines. I think this is really critical because when you go to downtown Gilbert, you know you're at Gilbert. There's a certain feel and a character with it. And that's because of our guidelines. And we really push our developers to adhere to these guidelines or to tell us how they're being creative and still matching their character if they can't achieve them. So then we look at, so we're imparting these goals and tactics. The council wants to know, what is this costing us? And is this really benefiting the community? Yes, we have a community living room, and yes, it's a cultural center. but are we getting our money's worth out of it? So we really measure that return. The IDA, International Downtown Association, has a really great study that they do every year, and cities can apply to be part of the study. It's the value of US downtowns and city centers. And I put this up here because what's really interesting is that these are very small footprints. Even in an established downtown, it's 5.2% of the citywide land area. And so these are huge economic drivers. And then I also really like this example. Urban 3 does a lot of return on investment measurements in downtown areas. This is an example from Asheville. And they looked at, what's the return, what's the value per acre between a single family residence, a mixed use development, and a big box retailer. And you can see, just the value per acre of 413,000 compared to 54 or 11 is a substantial return. So again, we utilize the redevelopment plan as our goal, and we work with our capital improvements team to take any of those goals related to infrastructure to put them in the capital plan. We not all of them are coming from our general plan or a general fund. Some of the projects have been bonded, but some of them are also earmarked as projects that will be funded through developers. So we do have public infrastructure projects that we said, no, we're not going to build these. When we finally sell that land and negotiate, that's going to be a key component of our negotiation. So we start to look at value versus investment. And of course, as the community is starting to buy land, not a whole lot that they're getting back at that point, right? You've got this land, you're banking it, it goes into the value portion, but it's costing money. So you've got the land, the buildings, the sales tax, and our land sales. That's really what we're looking at as the value. But we also then look at our investment. What does it cost us? So we look at capital improvement projects, our economic development staff time. We have included our police bike team. So in Gilbert, we have the only area we have a police PD bike team is in downtown. So we included that, and then other can be infrastructure related or the land acquisition. What's interesting in this though, when we talked to the town with our financial department and our town manager, we decided to do everything related to street maintenance because ultimately we're has to maintain streets throughout the entire community. So it's not specialized to this area. So when we did these calculations, don't be too quick, I'm doing okay. When we did these calculations, we found that for every dollar we spent, Gilbert's got $1 in free cash return. And going back to these, comparing the investment and the value. We take that one step further by then also evaluating how much we're getting from the private sector. What are they investing? And we look at their CapEx and we say for $1 that we're investing, if we're not getting at least $7 in return on the properties that we're selling and utilizing development agreements to sell that property, then it's not a good investment for us. So that's kind of a cap. Or our baseline. We also look at how the value per acre has grown over the years. So in the early 90s, the Heritage District was a little bit higher. Buffer areas started growing around it. And then in 2017, we start to see the value per acre increasing again. We saw those pictures from year to year in that 8-year time span. This is really kind of that 2017 to 2020. And now the Heritage District is surpassing the buffer area by about $153,000 per acre. And we've seen 198% increase in sales tax revenue. Not surprising because we just have a tremendous amount of things downside. But we did see a little dip in 2020 with COVID, but we're seeing that really rapid bounce back. So that's kind of how we really measure it. We're doing this on a 5-year basis, and now we do that yearly. Okay. So how do we maximize that return? First, we maximize it and ensuring that any development that comes downtown adheres to our character. We don't want something that doesn't fit in with what we're trying to achieve. So we have a set of design guidelines. These are all online, happy to share. We've done it by having developers build to their lot lines, which allows them more, more buildable square footage, which ultimately helps us with the sales tax revenue. We've done this through our capital improvement projects and really working with staff to help them understand what we're trying to achieve. We had a really strict budget on this parking garage and the amenities around the garage. This is actually pretty scaled back from what the original design was. So we value engineered it, but our team understood what the character was. So through that, we were able to really maximize that return. Again, we kind of consolidate things. So we're gonna have opportunities for developers to maximize their square footage and consolidate some of our services. So Crash is one of them. We wrote into the development agreement where the developer built our tax compactors and the service in the entire block. We've done that through electrical. So we consolidated all of the electrical on one single block. And transformer, those have setbacks, and those setbacks back to the ability for developer to utilize for footage on their site. So this was one way that we would consolidate. We've also consolidated our public infrastructure. So where are we putting rideshare? Where do we have our commercial loading happening? We're really looking at all aspects of how we maximize all of the areas. And then we ask for more. So in the redevelopment plan, we have the North Acre site, about 9.1 acres, and we envision mix of uses, including a park area and our Paseo, which is a north-south pedestrian and bicycle pathway, R3, that will connect all of the downtown area. So with this particular project, we put out a request for proposal to developers, the process to select what, and looking at negotiations with what. On the left is what was in the redevelopment plan. On the right is what's under the agreement right now. So we ended up with, they were able to, this developer was actually able to acquire the Burger King on the corner. So boutique hotel, 280 multi-family units, 100 hotel, retail, office, and then the bottom, building 7. So really were able to get what we envisioned, but we had to ask, we had to really negotiate for these things. So some of the things that we negotiated for, we asked, or we negotiated with the developer to contribute $350,000 to the Heritage District to be used in any way to see fit. That applies. That can be public infrastructure, art. We also asked them to improve the Western Power Line Trail, and with that, we also have to include $150,000 in public art. We asked them to include signature signage at the northeast corner, and I think what's interesting, as I mentioned with the capital improvement project, we identified which projects could be potentially developed by developers. And I'll tell you, some of our staff were nuts. They're like, there's no way a developer will ever develop this park, this common park. There's no way they're going to develop this Paseo. But we were able to negotiate for all of that. And so just the Paseo alone, you can see, that path, in the original design, that path that ended at their project. And so it's not just negotiating for the development agreement, it's really negotiating for your project development process. So in design, we continue to say, your dead ending, it has to go all the way to the north end of the district, and we wouldn't let them off the hook. They could have walked away at this point. But we, really went back to that vision of the redevelopment plan and said, this isn't my vision, it's not Amanda's, it's not our mayor's. It's the vision that the community created. And we have to adhere to that. This is their vision, we're hearing it. And so through that, we were finally able to get them to pull the entire Paseo, and they created things like this is the first floor were the offices, so it'll actually have to be building. And there's another retail building that they'll have it through. We have to fight for it. I think it's really important to have that vision that you can point to in order to maximize. And then, there's this conversation about density and growth, which is a really scary one. People are terrified of growth and density. This is a survey that one of our residents created. They photoshopped it themselves to ask which one do we want? Do we want to see the water tower or not? Oddly enough, if you're standing in front of the studio, you can't see the water tower. And so some of this is a communication point, for instance. At what view are you asking for a water tower, right? Like if you're standing in front of that building, it's a one-story building, you're not going to see it, even though you photoshopped it. And we certainly had, opposition in height. So we continue to have this conversation, not only with our council, but with our community, to say this is a small footprint. And we have one opportunity to diversify our tax base, and one way that we can do that in this area is through growth and density. And so going back to the value per acre, this as an opportunity in your work. And we started working with a group to look at, okay, so if the water tower is one of the reasons why people are diverse to grow, how do we then start to look at the model, all of downtown in a street model, and we can play with heights. We can show how different heights also change the shadows, which allows for better pedestrian coverage at different times of year. So it's not just a linear thought process of, well, I want to see the water tower. So let's look at that. We did some different intensity modes and how the downtown should grow. And then we show that, in these different modes, where is that view? Are you able to see it prominent in the moderate or the top? And so now as developers come in, particularly with this particular one, the neighbor across the street has a two-story building, and they said, well, I don't want 6 additional feet. They're asking for 8 feet. The additional feet over our regulation. We don't want that in a block of water tower. By building this model, we can then go back to the public and say, look, this is what you have at 55 feet by right. These already blocked. Is that 8 feet really that's that place? Then now we can attract Class A office and really kind of preserve into the building. And so that's really the conversation we're having now. And it's not an easy conversation. We have talked about this at the downtown. How do we have these conversations overall? So that was as fast as I could talk. But that gives you kind of an overview of what we're doing with ROI. And I'll be on the walking tours